Whether you call it conversion or reversion, embracing Islam is a traumatic experience for many. People find themselves isolated with no family or a community to support them. So what could be the problem? Prominent scholars have recently sparked controversies for inappropriate comments around race. What do they have in common?
My father has it. I have it. And my sister has it.
Indeed, they have insane amounts of privilege. This video is part of a series, so don't forget to subscribe to The Muslim Vibe to receive fresh content. So what is the problem with white converts?
They don't understand racism as an institutional or systemic phenomenon. They just understand it as, you know, people being horrible to people of different races.
Class, ego, gender can all intersect in the structure that is white supremacy. Coming into Islam it can't cure your racism, it doesn't stop you being racist, it doesn't make white supremacy disappear.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he didn't exist.
Some online tools exist for you to check your privilege score, for example, depending on your skin color, your gender, your mother tongue, your upbringing, your education, or your income. According to a meme, for white Muslims and racism, there are 4 main traps to avoid. There is no racism in Islam, therefore I see no color.
White people commit crimes against white people too.
This statement is almost always said as a response to an allegation that you've been racist, but what they're saying is, I refuse to see the problem. They see no distinction between victims of racism and non-victims of racism.
This is very deep denial. Obviously, the teachings of Islam are not racist teachings. So becoming Muslim, even though a person has gone through a big process, does not automatically mean that white supremacy is erased from us as white people.
I have embraced Islam, therefore I'm not white. I like when people mistake me for an Arab or an Afghan.
Are you off your head?
No, oddly enough, I'm not.
It's almost like trying something on, like an outfit. I can have an experience of being an Arab or an Afghan without actually all the prejudice and all the bigotry that people from those communities experience.
You cannot claim that you are no longer white, because you will still be raised as white.
I'm a white Muslim and I'm proud. Any attack on myself is anti-white racism.
To say you're white Muslim and proud is like saying I'm white and proud. Well, what does that sound like? It sounds terrible to me.
First of all, I am not, as you well know, a member of a low-rent, disorganized bunch of rednecks like the fucking KKK. Please.
It's not a microaggression that is feeding a system and maintaining a system that will give me less chances of employment or a good life in the future. You know, that's what racism is.
But can white people actually experience racism?
White people are not oppressed by racism because they are the beneficiaries of racism.
There is no anti-white racism. It doesn't exist. There's no reverse racism. Racism is a structure, it's a power structure that is about white supremacy. So it's not possible for it to work the other way around.
I use my whiteness to have authority amongst Muslims, while I use my white privilege to secure myself a comfortable mainstream media presence. At the same time, I criticize whiteness to attract more attention on my allyship.
You know, white converts who are influential already should be wary and check their intentions. Because it's the nature of humans to be tempted by possibilities that are available to you, even if they are wrong. Because everyone's interested in getting a leg up at some point, you know.
Their intention to rule rests with the annihilation of consciousness. We are focused only on our own gain.
They have to commit to never using their whiteness to get ahead of others of equal skill. They have to commit as well to not using their counter-racism as a shield to protect them from counter-racist criticism.
I think we see this so often where there's this kind of white is right as to why then a white convert who maybe has studied but not for as long or not as deeply, is given a privileged voice over someone who is black or someone who is brown, who has also studied. Their voice is just not, I'm doing it with my hands, it's just held so unequally.
How white supremacy is shaping Muslim communities. In recent years, we have seen Muslims supporting Trump, Muslims embracing white supremacist narratives or joining the Conservative Party in the UK. In the UK, some white converts have even established tariqas and groups aiming at providing a safe space for white Muslims. But hold on a second. Do white converts actually need a safe space?
White converts don't need a safe space from other Muslims, because white converts generally are not victims of racism. As white people, any space is generally a safe space. They're the most privileged Muslims in general. If you suggested that rich people need to have a safe space, you'd be laughed at.
I don't think that's the case, and I think trying to equate the need for safe spaces for black people or for brown people, there is not a parallel at all. Whilst it needs some support and discussion, because there are times when you're not safe, I really think it is really important that it doesn't overshadow the needs for people to talk about racism, to talk about anti-black racism within the Muslim community.
There will be a need for Muslims in common to have a safe space to discuss Islamophobia.
One of the main reasons for inequality is that people with privilege are not held accountable for the resources they receive. However, a few questions can help us. Are they self-interested? How collaborative are they with Muslims of color? Are they taking too much space? Are they too often invited on panels? Are they sent abroad as ambassadors of Islam? Are they being used as TV presenters or charity fundraisers? How do they redistribute their power, visibility and resources? Are they taking selfies with African orphans? Do they decline being put on a pedestal or being given undue privilege? So, what can white converts do to deal with their whiteness?
They're the foot soldiers of a Jew-hating, mass-murdering maniac, and they need to be destroyed.
Race should not be how you understand yourself if you want to get rid of it. Race should only be part of your understanding in the sense that it's something you have to tackle. It's a behavioral pattern that society trains you to fulfill, that you have to resist. And you have to try to work against. You have to commit to replacing white supremacy with justice.
We are who we are. If you're white, I'm white. We have to actually, in order to be anti-racist, we have to accept and learn about our whiteness and how that affects us and how it impacts other people, more importantly. White converts have to start a new process of education, learning, listening, reading, listening to what Muslims are saying about their experiences, and consciously choosing to not step into those places of authority, consciously choosing to listen and to learn from what people are saying and what people have written.
Racism is not just about discrimination. It is a whole system and we are all bathing in it whether we want it or not. And it is not the duty of oppressed people to educate those with privilege. There is a lot of emotional fatigue and labor associated with racism, and it is not fair to burden people even more. The key question is therefore, how are we using our privileges wisely so we can contribute to a more fair and harmonious society? For those of you who wish to continue and read further, there is a suggestion of books and articles in the description of this video. And keep yourself updated on news, facts and more by subscribing to the Muslim Vibe. Thanks for watching, and until next time, inshallah.